Hey guys, my name's Danny. I'm just going to go over my research poster with you. The topic that I chose, that our group chose, was opioids. And specifically, we're looking at the need of additional education for physicians as they prescribe opioids and give instruction on them. And the purpose for this was because we believe that there's a big misunderstanding between patients and physicians in this opioid epidemic, and that there may be a lack of proper instruction. So we decided to put together a survey that would help evaluate the need for possible further education of physicians. Just a little background on the opioid epidemic. It was declared a public health emergency in 2017 by President Trump. And a couple of statistics, in 2016, over 42,000 people died, and a big part of this number is prescription opioids, which is a big concern for us, especially as a lot of us are public health majors. This issue is certain to reach you at some point in your career because it is such a big problem in the public health realm, and a lot of people are working hard to find a solution. So something our group did was we decided that a lot of the issue could be because physicians don't properly educate and instruct patients when they prescribe opioids. And so we tried to put together a study that would help us do this. And as I kind of mentioned before, like our objectives were to just evaluate if, physicians are really taking the time to explain the risks behind the opioid epidemic and making sure that that their patients understand all the options. And we just wanted to, kind of get a gauge on the education that physicians are going through. So for our methods, we distributed a survey we sent it out to about 200 students. We just received a list from the institutional board, and we made our survey on SurveyMonkey, which is a 10-question opinion survey. And the goal of our study was, just to at least have 30 responses and to kind of evaluate just like through opinion what like the majority of people felt like was the level of instruction being given to them through physicians when being prescribed opioids, because a lot of us have, maybe it was just something as simple as like a wisdom tooth removal, but most of us have been prescribed opioids at some point of our life. So like most of our participants were aged in that group we were aiming for, the 18 to 34. We had, our goal of at least 33. And what we determined was that a lot of the people that we surveyed, they thought that, opioids were more short-term, and I feel like a lot of them don't realize that, people can be addicted to opioids for years. And there's a figure here that shows, we asked like how long most people thought prescription drugs are being used for, and most people said 2 to 4 weeks or 1 to 2, and no one chose above 6 weeks. So like that showed us that most people considered opioids to be something short term and probably didn't realize that it can be a problem for a lot of people, especially those with chronic pain. And then a lot of our participants really weren't that confident in the physician's ability to properly instruct on the risks and side effects of opioid drugs. And most of them thought, I mean, the answers are pretty sporadic, but there's just a startling statistic of people who, thought that sometimes or only rarely did physicians properly instruct on the risk. And, there's a decent chunk here of people who thought that more instruction should be given on the label of prescription drugs, showing that, they maybe didn't understand exactly what was being told to them. And that's a big part of the opioid epidemic too, is patients just not understanding, how and when to use their prescriptions. And so we decided through, our results of this study that at minimum, more should be done to just evaluate the level that physicians are educated on pain management. A lot of the things we looked over show that there was a lack of education during medical school on pain management, and most physicians aren't even aware of other alternatives to opioids. So we decided that it would be appropriate if there was a little education that was put into place, just, continuing medical education for physicians that they could attend. That would be mandatory for them to keep their prescribing privileges. That way they could better educate and instruct patients on the opioid epidemic and the risk involved with that.